Good afternoon here at Ars Electronica Home Delivery. My name is Sandra, and today we're going to look in this segment at two very special projects we can show here in our Deep Space 8K, namely laser scan projects like the Great Pyramid you see behind me, and the second part of this presentation will deal with the Gigapixel photography. Some of you might already know, but I'm going to show you a piece that's not that often shown here in deep space, although it is a very interesting one to analyze. Right, so we're going to start, as I said, with one of the amazing projects we have since last year, since our festival to be precise, in this case the Great Pyramid of Giza. And what's so special about this project is it's not a normal video. It's a laser scan video, and you might ask now, okay, what is a laser scan? What is so special about it? Think about when you have a camera and you want to have like a nice widescreen picture of a landscape. You put it on a mount, most likely, so that you have a stable image, and then you adjust the setting, wait a few seconds, and take your picture. Laser scan is done in a similar way, but not with a normal camera, but instead with a laser scanner. What does the laser scanner do? Well, it's mounted as a normal camera, and then it shoots laser beams very fast in every direction. How fast? Well, there are thousands of laser beams per second in every direction. And then you get a picture like you see behind me from the Great Pyramid. How is this achieved? There was not a single laser scanner, because otherwise we would have just like a very small image. No, there were hundreds of laser scan images used here, even thousands, to combine them into one amazing video, 360-degree video. That's why I'm having the Xbox controller in my hand here. I can actually guide us through this tour now, virtually. Let's start. I'm also activating something else with a laser, our laser tracking system here in deep space, which allows us to interact directly with certain videos. Now, let's start our tour. So first of all, we fly around the Great Pyramid from the outside. And as you can see, I can change our perspective with this Xbox controller as we fly along. And you can already see it's not a normal picture, as you might have seen in some travel brochures, because we can sort of see through the pyramid. And I will explain that in a second. So every laser scan you see, every shot of a laser produces one point when it's reflected back towards the camera. And that's how this amazing image from the outside of the pyramid was created. Before we go in, I'm gonna pause the video for a second. Here we are at the entrance everyone can use today when you visit the Great Pyramid. Originally, it was of course meant to stay sealed. The pyramid was planned to be the tomb of the great pharaoh Khufu, and he should have been entirely left in peace, so to say, in his eternal resting place. Unfortunately, that did not happen that way. Pyramids are large, especially the ones in Giza, and they attract attention, also by grave robbers. So sadly, this pyramid has been plundered many times, and the most dominant plundering happened around the 9th century AD, when a tunnel was dug into the pyramid to find the treasures inside. And we're going to see it in a second. So now we enter the pyramid, and here it is. The Thieves' Tunnel, the structure that's not really compared to other structures in the pyramid that regularly, because they just blindly try to force their way inside. And now we have a strange view, because the pyramid, of course, is not hollow inside. But that's how lasers can work. You can take pictures from outside the structure or inside the tunnel system. So we have a very precise image now of the tunnels, how they were built inside the pyramid as one giant complex, and everything in between is empty, but of course not in real life. There would be thousands of stones. But it offers us a unique perspective on the might of construction, so to say, of the ancient Egyptians, because when I pause the video right here, you see that the structures align perfectly. So the tunnels were so precise that there's, I think, around them a diversion around 1.2 centimeters around the tunnels that are different from each other. Otherwise, they are perfectly aligned, all three of them. On top, we have the so-called King's Chamber, where the stone sarcophagus is still inside. We're going to go there in a few minutes. Below is the so-called Queen's Chamber, although this one is misnamed because there were never any queens buried here, but there are some theories about what it was used for. And about 20 meters below Earth, there is the unfinished subterranean chamber or stone chamber, where we are also not sure what it was originally used for. As well as the pyramids researched, we still don't know all the answers, sadly. But that's also what makes it interesting. Now we are inside the Thieves' Tunnel. You can see a few silhouettes here from people who didn't want to go out of the way of the laser scan, so of course they are now on the video as well. And here we are at the junction where the Thieves' Tunnel meets the original tunnel. We can even see the blocking stones still in place, which were meant to prevent thieves from entering, but sadly the thieves found a way around them and were lucky to just enter this tunnel above the ceiling stones. Right, now we have a choice, again with our laser tracking system, where we want to go. We could go outside again to the subterranean chamber or the King's Chamber, and I think for our segment, I think I want to visit the King's Chamber. So I'm going to stand on this plate again and activate our next video. And then we're going to start our ascent towards the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu. We have to duck a bit in this first section because it's not more than 1.2 meters high, but it's worth it, even though it's very steep. So when you look back down again, you see we're doing quite a climb. And right here, I'm gonna pause the video again, where we enter the Grand Gallery. We see a tunnel straight ahead that would lead us to the Queen's Chambers. As I said, there were never any queens buried there, but we found certain remains of cult processes, so to say, of religious cults. And there is a theory that it was maybe used as a room for the pharaoh's Ka, his spirit, to return to this world and rest and come back and visit, so to say. Now, let's move up the main gallery, which is quite high. On its tallest point, it's almost 9 meters. And the stones are moving inwards to form a supportive structure. You have to imagine like the tons of stones pressing down on the structure. So they had to come up with a clever way to support it. Again, some people who didn't want to go out of the way are here. And we're almost to the King's Chamber. Once more, we have to duck inside to get inside, because this is also just 1 meter high. There was a second security door, so to say, a second stone blocking the entrance, but it was removed during medieval times, most likely. And now we are in the massive King's Chamber, made completely out of granite. The outer parts of the pyramid are mostly sandstone, and here the granite stones were cut with such precision that even today we do not know how they managed to do that, because they didn't have the tools for it back then. And even the great stone sarcophagus, also made from granite, is so massive that it had to be cut in place because it was too big to transport it through the pyramid. And sadly, that's all that's left of the great Pharaoh Khufu. We never found his mummy, his treasures, his sarcophagus are all lost to time. And there's just one tiny statue of him that has survived the ages. He built one of the largest monuments ever in history, but all that's left of him is a little tiny figure. But I guess that's irony. And if you're wondering what those black spots on the floor are, that's where the laser scanner stood and shot the lasers in every direction to take this picture of the Great Chamber. Yeah, we could go back again, but time is not our friend. We want to have a look at the second part of today's special deep space as well, the so-called Gigapixel photography. Just one more word towards the pyramid. This project is part of the so-called Immersify project of the EU. And what do they mean by that? What do they want to do? Well, they want to make some things like this video, this project, more immersive, more accessible for everyone, and that's why they created this fund to support projects like this. To not just watch a normal video, but one that we can guide through. We can have special projects like this to travel to distant places, especially nowadays that's relevant because going to the pyramid is not that easy now, especially because of traveling restrictions, but at least we can walk digitally through this great monument. And now I'm going to switch the controller for my smartphone here that controls this entire room. And I'm going to close this tour through the pyramid and start another project, this time with the focus of gigapixel photography. What is gigapixel photography? You're going to see in a moment. A wonderful picture. Maybe some of you have been there already. It's quite a popular tourist attraction here in Austria. So we travel back from faraway Egypt to some place in Austria you might be able to visit. We are now in St. Wolfgang, and this is the famous Pacha altar, the winged altar. A little bit of history about this piece. It was constructed in the 15th century by altar artist Michael Pacha, and it's the only altar from him that's completely preserved, that we can still see today, and it's a masterpiece in woodwork, in painting, in design. And when you stand in front of it like this, you might say, okay, looks nice. Okay, it's pretty far up, so we cannot get any closer normally. Of course, there's also a line we're not allowed to cross in church. And we thought, okay, this could be much more immersive as well. Especially when photographer, Florian Vogenhuber, decided he would take a closer look at this picture. And that's why I have to come back here now. Because what can we do with a gigapixel photography? We can do this. We can zoom in into great detail and actually not lose anything from the resolution because it still stays sharp, it still stays focused, and we can look at every detail that we want to see. That's the beauty about gigapixel photography. Maybe you know megapixels from your own smartphone. You want to take a panoramic view picture of a mountain range or a city, that works perfectly. And you have maybe 8 megapixel, 16 megapixel, and so on. But here we have gigapixel. So we step it up one more level. We have 1024 pixels more to work with. And that means we can really go in. We can see every single piece Michael Pacha designed really carefully, painted, carved, and make out everything. Yeah, so what's so special about this altar that this photographer thought it's worth preserving? Not just because it's the last piece of Michael Pacha that survived the ages. No, it's also because St. Wolfgang was a popular pilgrimage site back in the 15th century. And the project was to bring people to go to St. Wolfgang even more. And it still works to this day, which is impressive. So what's the topic of this scene here? This altar deals with the topic of the coronation of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And that's the middle piece here for you. Upon her death, she was crowned in heaven. And you see it here. But this piece offers other insights into the life of Jesus as well. For example, if we go over here, that's a very famous scene, of course. Normally you would see Mary with her husband Joseph, but here this altar is focused on Mary exclusively. So it's the birth of Jesus with just Mary present, some animals and some angels, painted and carved in beautiful detail. And as with gigapixel photography, you can move around, you can look at every detail you want to have a closer look at, and maybe try to find things you didn't notice before, even if you've seen the altar live and in person. We had some famous specialists, altar specialists, have a look at it as well. And even they said through gigapixel photography, they noticed details that they've never seen before. So it's again very immersive, very interesting to see things from a new perspective, even if it's just digitally. Yeah. And with that, it's almost over. Again, this segment with special focus on laser scan technology and gigapixels. Next up is going to be a science talk about our Milky Way. So tune in at 4 p.m. for the next segment of Ars Electronica Home Delivery. Thank you and have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.